I bought my Can-Am Renegade XXC XXC in April of 2018. It was meant to be a replacement for getting out of Mustangs and a replacement for the CBR 600RR that I previously had. I had tons of really nice trails around me, a lot of places I could ride and go to, and this was meant to be like my next thing that I was going to get into, the next long-term thing, and the thing that I was going to consider as my next permanent hobby for quite a long time. It didn't take too long before I made a few friends and we would find time to ride on the weekends. And I bought the XXC because it's a top-of-the-line Can-Am. It's meant for a lot of trail riding. It's meant to handle the trails really well. It has extremely good suspension that's fully adjustable. But I also wanted something that I could play around with in some mud holes, but not a dedicated mud machine. But something that was good all around and something that was fast, because I just didn't want to get a regular four-wheeler. I wanted something in the realm of ATVs that was comparable to what my CBR was when it came to bikes. So that's what drew me to this four-wheeler in particular. And it was a really, really fun four-wheeler. It had a lot of power. It was extremely fast. And I had a real good time with it in the short amount of time that I did have it. I did add a winch and I added a tune, but there really wasn't a whole lot you could really do with the XXC. I mean, there is, but overall it came very well equipped from the dealership, just because it is a top-end model. And I did have plans to do more with it. That never materialized by the time that I no longer had it. But for the things that I did to it and what I had, it performed very, very well, and I was quite happy with it. It was an adjustment going into the realm of ATVs versus where I came from with Mustangs and from sport bikes, where you could either jump in or jump on the bike or get in the car and take off for the day and go and do what you wanted to do, go to a show, go ride in the mountains, stuff like that. With a four-wheeler, it was a lot different. I had to plan out where I really wanted to go, and I had to trailer it. I didn't live close enough to the trails to jump right on them, so every time it involved wanting to go and ride, I had to hook my trailer up to the truck and I had to take off and go to my destination. And then when I was done, I had to load the ATV back onto the trailer again and ride back home. And that's kind of one of the things that got me down the road of why I didn't get rid of it. And there's a few more things as well. I knew it was a dirty hobby going into it. It's pretty much unavoidable when you're going off-road. I knew that I was going to be getting covered in dirt. The four-wheeler would be coming back covered in mud, dust, dirt, and everything else that I was riding through. But the issue that I brought up was when the riding day was over and I finally got back home after loading the ATV back onto the trailer and driving home and unloading it and putting it back in the garage, the actual day wasn't over yet. I still had to go and take a shower, get all cleaned up. And then there was the issue of ticks. Being where I live, there's tons of ticks everywhere. And when you're riding in the woods and off-road, you get covered in them, and I was always picking ticks off me all the time. And then there was the issue of the Renegade itself. It was covered in dirt, it was filthy, you can't just leave it like that. So you had to wash the four-wheeler after to get it clean again before you could take it out again. It wasn't quite as easy as it was with the bike or the Mustang, where you could pretty much drive or ride to where you wanted to for the day and come back home, put either one in the garage and you were done, and that was basically it. You didn't have to, you could wash it the same day, but you didn't have to. You could wash it a few days later. The ATV, you kind of had to do it fairly quick because that stuff dries on and cakes on, and it's just better to get all the dirt and mud off as soon as you can. And it started to become more of a chore than it was enjoyable, and that was another aspect of it that really got me thinking, was this really what I wanted to be getting into for my next hobby? As it always seems to be with most of the hobbies I get into, it always came with some level of risk, and with riding it wasn't any different. Even though I only put 420 miles on the Renegade before I sold it, I did have an incident where I hit a rock that was in the middle of the trail, and I was moving at a pretty good speed when it happened, and I kind of launched the Renegade up in the air a little bit, and it came back down. And it didn't really scare me to the point of where I wanted to get rid of it and not ride anymore, but it just got me really thinking, is this really what I want? And kind of what pushed me towards selling it a little bit more than what it already was. And it didn't really damage the ATV at all. It damaged the skid plate and the plastic covering for it. The frame or anything like that wasn't bent. The skid plate did what it was supposed to do, but it did take a pretty rough hit. So with all these things factored in together, it came down to one final thing, and that's, despite all the bikes that I had, the CBRs, despite getting the Can-Am Renegade XXC, there was still something that was missing. There was still a void that wasn't being filled. And what that came down to was that I really just wanted to get another Mustang again. These things were kind of little bridges in between. When I sold my last Mustang, the 94 Cobra, back in 2016, that was the end for me. I was done. I was getting out of it. It was too expensive to have that kind of a hobby with the amount of mods that I was throwing at it. And it was just time to move on and get into other things again. Even though I had the bike at the same time, some of the previous CBRs, it was just something that was weighing on my mind, that I just really wanted to get another Mustang. And I really thought that the Can-Am Renegade was gonna, fill that void, and I was gonna be all set moving forward. But when it came down to it, I had like an epiphany moment, and I was like, you know what, I just really, really want to get another Mustang again. That's where my heart really lies. That's what I really enjoy for a hobby. Doing the modifications for, going to shows, talking with other people that have Mustangs similar to mine, or what I'm gonna get, meeting new people and new friends and going to events. That's what I really, really enjoy, and that's what I was missing. And despite all the other issues that I had about the Can-Am, the real reason was that I just really wanted to get another Mustang again. And as I've stated in other videos, if you've watched anything throughout this channel, I do have a plan to buy a Terminator Cobra starting next spring. That may or may not happen sooner. I don't know right now. It's a possibility, but it's kind of a long shot in my opinion. So we're going to wait and see how it goes. But as of now, the plan is still springtime of 2021. I will have one once the F-150 is paid off. And that's going to be a lot of what this channel is going to be, is a lot of the Terminator Cobra content. So if that's the kind of stuff you want to see, if you're a Mustang fan into fast cars, there's going to be a lot of modifications under the car. It will be fast. It's going to be built for something specific, which I will get into more when the time comes when I have one. And it will have a good chunk of power. Not the most, but it's going to have a lot. So if that's something that you are into and enjoy, feel free to sub to the channel and come along and watch this build as it happens, because it is definitely going to happen. So with that said, everyone, I thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. If you liked the video, throw it a like. Sub if you want to come along and see more content that I have coming. I'll put some links in the description for my plans to get the Cobra, and a video that I did about all the other Mustangs that I've had in the past, and some other interesting videos you may be interested in. But other than that, I thank you very much for watching, and until next time.